What's up, everybody? This is coming before another video that I wanted to put out, but I haven't quite gotten around to it yet. Maybe that's still coming. But right now we're doing this. So, Black Myth Wukong. It's a fun game. It's a shame about the studio itself trying to cover up proof of nonsense in the workplace, because there's definitely proof, and there are receipts, and people that have tried to debunk that are just wrong. But with that aside, I had an opportunity to play this game because I upgraded my PC recently and I got the game for free. So I decided to play it, and to be honest, I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's not supposed to be a Souls-like, but it's inevitably going to get compared to one because you have flasks, you have stamina. You don't lose your stuff when you die, which is nice. You don't have to go back and like reclaim your stuff or else you lose it, which is a really nice feature about this game. And for as much as it may not be a Souls-like in the complete sense, there are a lot of ways in which it is, so I'm just going to go with that and make the inevitable comparisons that people are going to make anyway. So this is kind of like, if Sekiro is parry the game, this is dodge the game, is the easiest Souls-like specific comparison I can make. I will say that while this is probably, you can't summon in this game per se, except for like the slight exception is one spell, a Pluck of Many, that summons duplicates for a specified period of time, which is a great spell that you can use. But you don't have summons in this game per se, so you can't really like get around the difficulty that way. However, in place of summons, there are various spells and opportunities to make fights much easier than they would be if you just had to rely on dodging, knowing boss tells, so on and so forth. And you're still going to have to do that to some extent, but you have leeway in this to make the game not as difficult as your typical Souls-like. That said, I do think as a casual Souls-like player that has somehow found the way to get through a bunch of these games, I do find this one on the easier side, but it's mostly because of what I mentioned, where you can have different options available to you. So I like what the game has to offer, right? Like, you get different staves, and it's kind of like Sekiro in the sense that you only have your one weapon, essentially, like whatever staff you're going to use. However, I think there are a lot more skill trees and depth and potential for builds than there were in Sekiro. So I think there's a lot more going for this game in that department. The other thing, too, is that it just remains a fun game throughout. There's a lot of bosses, to no one's surprise, but they're really well done. There's a couple that are, you can maybe say are sort of recycled, but the game remains fun throughout. Much like a Souls-like, I can't really catch on to what the story is, but I can appreciate what they're doing. Nonetheless, the game is visually pleasing. It runs really well. I have the PC version. I've noticed very little, if any, frame hitches. There was only one point in the game where it literally like froze during the boss fight, and by the time the action came back, like it loaded, I was very much dead. So outside of that, it's run pretty well, so no complaints there. There's enough varied and interesting characters throughout the story to pay attention to as you make this wild journey. It's an exciting time. It's not without flaws though. I do think the level design is not the best. It's kind of like open world, but not really, in the sense that, yeah, you can go off the main path a bunch of times, and it's how you find some of the different quests and or I don't know if quest is the right word, but like they're quests in a sense because you have to do like sometimes side things to get optional bosses that you would not fight otherwise, which can be fun if you run into them. Just gives you extra stuff to do in the game and level up, which the level up process, it's pretty quick. So you can, put that next point or two or several if you forget about it relatively quickly. So it makes you feel progressively stronger at a decent rate. It doesn't take like a ton to be able to gain levels. And there's even a new game plus that I may or may not touch. Full transparency, I'm not completely done with the game. I do believe I am on the final chapter, chapter 6. And it's been fun to this point. But going back to that level design thing, there are a lot of invisible walls in the game, so it's kind of like this illusion of open world being able to go where you want, but you're still restricted to where the game ultimately wants you to go, or, those side paths that may take you to an optional boss. But there's a lot of invisible walls, so like, and you'll know it because there are certain areas where in the game where you might have to fall off a cliff to proceed. If you can't do that, then the game is simply not allowing you to go there. So there's that. The other thing that I've noticed, and maybe it's just me, but I do feel like when you heal, sometimes it is delayed or just doesn't work, which is not great. There's always a lag time with drinking an Etzis flask, which, let's be real, everyone's going to compare it to that. So when you go to drink that, sometimes it just doesn't happen. The way around both of these problems, potentially, unless it's just the input not working, in which case you can't really use this as a strategy to get around it, but there is a flask in the game that allows you to take a drink quicker. And due to that, you can kind of get around this issue. Maybe it is simply the lag time that maybe I just feel like the button doesn't work sometimes. Again, that could be very much a quote-unquote skill issue. I'm willing to accept that, but getting the flask to take a drink quicker is very much worth doing. This replaced a previous flask or gourd. I'll call it by the proper thing in this game for once. Using a gourd that your first drink restores your entire health bar. And I love that. But the trade-off to actually be able to heal quicker in the midst of battle is more worth it to me. And ever since using that, I feel I have more control over my heals, so it's worth it. But there's a lot of depth. You have your different equipment, you have your accessories, you have different tiers of spells, which you can choose up to 4 spells within different types of spells that you can use. Personally, I've been going with I thought I was going to base things entirely on Immobilize, but now it's only become like part of the build. Maybe it's like, and I mean, I did find it somewhere, so I can't take credit for the build myself per se, but like, I thought I was going to go like pure Immobilize, but I think now I have more points towards a Pluck of Many, which is the skill I referenced before, where you put out duplicates of yourself to kind of wreck the enemy shit. Try to do that as quickly as possible in combination with Immobilize, and you can put on skills that make your clones do some of the same stuff you can, which is pretty neat. There's also focus points. You get focus points, which let you do a powerful heavy attack. You can build up to 3 or a potential 4th if you attack enough in a row and your bar is filled and you do the attack quick enough afterwards. You can get a really powerful, a level 3.5 or level 4. Let's just say level 4. It's technically what it is. I'm not even sure if the game technically tells you that, but you can do it. It might in one of the descriptions. Don't know. Didn't read it. But there is a level 4, I promise. When you get that bar up, you have your 3 focus points, and then you do heavy attack afterwards with the bar all the way up. You can do a level 4 attack, which is much stronger, to be hurting on enemies. And actually, I said you can't do summons, but I kind of lied there because you have these things called spirits, which you don't summon them for the whole fight, but they're various spirits, which are basically attacks done by select enemies that you'll find through exploring, and you get like certain properties of their attack, and you get to use it briefly in the fight. Each of them use different levels of some of them take longer to recharge than others and have different effects. I've been using this thing that puts out like a frost AoE alongside one of the first ones you get in the game if you're silly enough to fight it early, the Withering White, I think it's called. I can't remember the name of the other thing, so I do apologize. It actually might be in the footage that I'm going to share for this, which is fighting one of the harder bosses in the game, or at least from what I've read from some people. It's actually an optional one, but a really cool one. It's like this tiger with a big ass sword. Might as well be the Buster Sword, or, you know, Berserk influenced or whatever. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. The guy's relentless, so a lot of what I mentioned here is going towards being relentless, or letting your enemy not do much of anything, just overwhelming them, and you know, pushing past those boss fights so you don't have to get good, because, well, you just destroy your enemies before then, right? You got to use the tools that you're given. I think that's kind of it. Before I get like too ranty on this, like it's been a nice little distraction. For a while I was just kind of distracting myself with older stuff, which, you know, is a hint towards the video that I mentioned earlier that I have not put out quite yet. But before this goes on for too long, I think this is a good point to end it. Overall, I do enjoy the game. Would I recommend it to somebody? Yeah, probably. That said, you know, we talked about the controversy because it's important. It's important to bring it up, even though it has nothing to do with the game technically, for people that care about that stuff. And while I certainly do, I am not surprised that a Chinese dev, you know, given how things are over there, that they just happen to have a bro culture. But what makes it worse is that they're indie and not AAA. But again, it's kind of water is wet, or obvious point is obvious news. They tried to pretend it was noise and shut up content creators from actually reporting this stuff, which is why I specifically chose to not stream it. So I kind of just been playing it on the side, and would I support this game? I don't know. I'd be on the fence about it, but I literally didn't have to because it came for free with select NVIDIA GPUs. So that's how I've been able to play it, and as it just turns out, I've been enjoying it. So it's a shame that that's there, but it's important to point out. And if that stuff really bothers you that much, well, guess what? For half the price, because this game's $60, for half the price, you can just play 9 Souls instead. And needless to say, I'm going to be doing that as well. And that I paid full price for. Technically not. Reward points. But still. But still more than I paid for this. But to each their own on that. And it's been fun. So it is what it is. I hope to be done with the game soon, as I'm going to definitely finish it. I don't know that I'll be going in for New Game Plus, but it's been a pretty cool game that I would recommend to anybody that is either interested in Chinese mythology, in playing another Souls-like, and playing just a solid single-player experience with no microtransactions, which sadly, yes, that is a thing, a measure of a good game nowadays, because like they easily could have done that. I do think there is planned DLC already. How big that on a scale that is, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.